So we've just finished the year 2015-16 with a £17.1 million deficit, which is a lot of money in anybody's books. And despite the fact that there are some organisations across the country that have a greater absolute deficit, that is, as a percentage terms of our £112 million turnover, that is one of the biggest percentage deficits of a hospital in the country. So we've got some really material financial issues that we need to get on top of. And we've also had a report, so there's an individual called Lord Carter who's undertaken some work nationally looking at all organisations and determining potential opportunities for efficiencies. And for Hinchingbrooke, we've been identified as being the second and most inefficient hospital from a financial perspective in the country. So we've absolutely got some issues that we can resolve ourselves. However, in my opinion, and a large proportion of our financial pressures are as a result of our size, or as a result of the fact that we're relatively small. So if you think of the fact that all of us here as a board are here, and if you're a board of £1 billion organisation, you still need the same numbers of staff, you still need a chair, 5 execs, you still have to have, by statute, a chief exec, a medical director, a finance director, a nurse director. So the board costs are not that dissimilar depending on your size. Equally, in terms of back office functions, for example, we still have to have a good functioning HR department, finance department, information, etc. There are some services that we are starting to really struggle to provide to the quality that we would want to. And certainly looking forward, there's a number of services and additional services that we will continue to struggle to provide sustainably. If you forward wind the clock a good few years. And that's not just us, that's something that is being reflected up and down the country, and particularly even locally, and as it's outlined in the OBC as well, that there's some, Peterborough and Stamford have some, if you forward wind the clock, they have some concerns around clinical sustainability of a number of services there, as well as the sustainability of services here. I've outlined 3 in the summary paper there. If I just pick up on 2 very quickly, if you take our emergency department, we're one of the smallest departments in the country, but we still see the best part of 45,000 or have 45,000 attendances a year, which is a huge amount of activity, a huge amount of urgent care activity that we absolutely need to continue to provide locally on this site and ensure that we can maintain those services safely and to a high quality.
But as the debate went on through the last 4 or 5 months, it's become remarkably clear that the issue for us is around clinical sustainability. And you've heard a lot about that. I'm going to give you some numbers now. It's one of the things I find most frustrating is the number of consultant appointment panels that get set up and then get cancelled. So I just want to give you some numbers. I'm going to go slowly because it's the heart of the problem. In the last year, we have advertised 22 and a bit whole-time equivalent consultants. It's a bigger number, but it's 22 and a bit whole-time equivalent. We have advertised those posts 42 times. 42 times in a year. We've had 42 applicants who could be shortlisted, at best. We've had 29 who bothered to come for interview. We offered the post to 18, and 10 accepted. Okay? So of our 90, slightly plus, consultants in this hospital, 18 are NHS locums and bank doctors. And in addition to that, of course, we have many other staff, other locums and bank staff doing shifts to make the rotas compliant. So, of course, what do when you see those numbers is you ring up some of the people and say, what's the problem? And the problem's obvious. The problem is onerous rotas. Much easier to get people to sign up for a 1 in 10 rota or a 1 in 12 rota than a 1 in 3 rota or a 1 in 4. It's just a fact. And the lack of subspecialisation. If you've got 15 orthopaedic surgeons, you can have 1 for each finger. If you've only got half a dozen, you can't. And that's the way medicine goes. So the issue for me is, does this help clinical sustainability?
And also it was pointed out that if we did not merge, that through the hard work that you as a board are putting in and the executives are putting in, the trust is due to reduce its deficit, I think down to very close to nothing, by 2020 in any event. So I'm not really sure that a business case has been made for Hinchingbrooke taking on Peterborough's debt, and there is a lot of it. Secondly, I understand the difficulty that was explained very well by the CEO and by the medical director of recruitment in certain areas for Hinchingbrooke. But I'm not sure why that necessarily needs to require a merger. Can't we just have joint working between hospitals? And indeed, why must this joint working be exclusive with Peterborough? For instance, why can't we share A&E consultants with Peterborough and elective care staff with Addenbrooke's? Thirdly, I note that the outline business case does not talk about cutting clinical services, and the Chief Executive made that very clear in his statements. But we do know that there is this regional review of services going on. And does the board actually understand local concerns? That if we don't have our own board to defend our own corner, when the next round of cuts comes, we may well end up with services being moved to empty wards in Peterborough. And this is at a time, and I know that this was again mentioned at the meeting, at a time when our own local population is rapidly expanding. Fourthly, will your trust only agree to a merger, if that is what you are going to agree to, on the basis of keeping all clinical services at Hinchingbrooke? I think the chairman gave a very clear indication of where he personally stands on this topic. That would be absolutely key for local people. And fifthly, can you please explain more about the consultation that you propose? Will local residents in Huntingdonshire be presented with a document setting out the case and requesting their views? And will they be listened to? Thank you.
Thank you.